For that purpose, until I attain Buddhahood, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. Until death, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. From today until this time tomorrow, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, requesting, and praying, I dedicate it for the complete awakening of all beings. Great Vajradhara, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lord Kampopa, Pagmojupa, and Lord Drikumpa. I pray to all the Kagyu Lamas. From his guru, King Sarlingpa, he received the nectar medicine of bodhicitta and brought benefit to all sentient beings. I pray to glorious Satisha. From now until I attain enlightenment, may I also practice the three precious lineages, and through this may I perfect sublime bodhicitta and bring benefit to others with my bodhicitta. In all my lives, may I never be separated from the perfect Guru. May I enjoy the glory of the Dharma, perfect the qualities of the bhumis and paths, and quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
No, it's like we can try, but it's not working. It's the microphone is not great.
I don't know.
It's not the distance. I think it's the microphone. Like if you don't have a clip that clips on, if you just use a microphone alone without a clip.
No, I think this.
No, I think then there's gonna be some kind of muffling. It makes it hard for me to discern the details, especially when he speaks fast.
Do you want me to try to turn this off? Or
I can kind of like, how can you make it that he sounds like you? Because I can hear you very clearly, but for some reason, like he sounds very muffled. Yeah, I hear it, but it's not clear.
Yeah, sorry.
Maybe that's what it is.
Too close.
Maybe it's too close. Quando é? Oh, that's better. Yeah, that's better.
You
Yeah.
agree?
Yes. Thank you.
Ah, no need.
Maybe no need
I think
Yeah,
quando è?
that's much better.
Yeah, se goma da waten.
Cosa Mari?
min du la mena yak bodo.
Ja. Ja,真的，他就当得俺做小天个点吃药了哇。我这就当得的，这当这工个就留进来的是哪不可说的，哪哪的哇。真的，这当咱这工个就写的，这当格局是吧？格局写的上节干当嘛的就的了。我这针对这蛮主要的，我格局写上节干的嘛就的，当嘛的那格局写。这期真的，咱这工个就写今天中国的嘛过走的，咱们落节假的。17周3周手，但这种地恰大门，我这里，但这今天中午咱就咱拉结果呀么都这，这当德局点球忙不这咱农村的人今天中午成就恰的有的，我真的咱成就恰的，这里咱今天中午汤不公开呀那种的看的，我在那种的这当马瑞克龙点呢，拉起的看的厕所那个菜的。我这儿在那个车下推出来，么都是么的，我把前浪老马推出来，没啥人怕的。我没啥人怕龙的，你看拉不起手那个车去。我等你这儿现在有的是在推出来，么都是那个车下，对嘛，我把前浪老马推出来。那个车是龙电，停住车龙电的马瑞克。我等马瑞克是龙电，对真的没啥人怕，他看着这里看着拉不起你票的哇。我这儿是他可能不去老马，就我一些都是是。
Tu?
Chivo ishi turje.
Kibu yeshi doji.
Gambo be loma rwa. Ote gambo be tara tang se zar jetang ne gu na bu seri. Ota tere pamo chwa la ta gambo be zar da kan re lapchi. Ota so sam do nya tere tang gu res. Ota ru ka nang re.
Togen kanang re.
Gambo be pamo
Gambo
chwa.
bagi. Oh.
Ta pamo chwa gang za stem di dis man re de shira tang to be o ma re. 我当头有嘛的，这泡沫出来给他突零件里把些，如果个就总之一件的话，我突零件里边，当今天中国你了，那么我把它在这看的拉起从那块从上边呢，就是当过的也是，我就是拉的，送的，但送的点，真的，那当本今天中国给，那用个就从左边老马卡的当的，用个就从牛现在牛家往上拿是的。在双做起，在这看拉起的上的，我在这里哪怕那个去，你们那个电拍票其他我上，就说那个的，不然说在做电拍，我听着真不过个就给张八姐的在那拍有的，
我这张八卡的猪八卡的，
张八姐的，
张八姐的 OK。
我在那这当用个就上可能说你们在那个能写的，
用个卡的。
Nyongar chosom te konga jing som lama som dang wa ta nyongar
Nyongar and
chosom
that's a lama som re ti ming tinga te ka chuting pa mata ha ko samari
nyu jarwa la nang se
New Jarva Lanong
我把钱去一些
Parchen Chui
我当时说的如果上百节的工作在那个做车的在做那个车那过了多难多呀是不是这样的我当时就去的我当时就去到这里去了但今天中共但这个问题老马被蒙古修剪多多啊对对对但你妈这他是把的顺浪的去的你今天中国拉是的这拉送对这差不多些这个像龙巴剪多差不多有啥的他差不多些差不多些我他那了修的多这老马就这对你多他那了差不多了他那差不多他那修的刚那这都是他的写大上嘛拍一来的这个他在这哪多去拍不起去他的那去了拍不起是
那看吧
那当时那放在这里拉出来说
你送等着
我这那这个那前面的那盲目的我去参马黑马拉的就看起来这说在这里我去写他的写大什么用的这的这去拍不起一些这几个种尊重啊这拍不啥的我这下不了这那几个种他修不起的俺修里面是咱这种老马中国是在哪里这老马中国写了就是呢 罗马毛中国，这里咱罗马就这用的讲财务里头的你，是吧？这财务里头的你对他前两这种我把它多少钱，咱罗马就去那这里去多少钱是他的。我这那边
This
个
one. Okay.
那边个这重点从是，我这重点从是，这是重点从天的，那前两做的从哪？那这个内容，这样的啊，这冲着这罗马就这冲着几拉的，我做这冲着，咱们那清楚给你是，前两这个去多其实，我这里去多啊，还可算。
Yeah.
我这学的人这个种这个的片，他就是把听了装当的，是这样差不多年的装当的是，他起码是别忙说的，他起码这了这了，我从我见你整个当的是，
This go up. Katsedok chema dira.
这让几天从工作队从你
Ngapche.
啊
This
从
go.
几天从
Ngaptong ngapya.
你生啊
Ngapchanga. Nani shutanga.
你生啊，
Didi konglo katsedok.
工作队从你上去的，可见。 我这拉不起来，这种我成个东我不见你整看了我成个东我不见你整当然是拉不起来，他甚至当然是，这在我可能就是从哪有的
Sacha somla din tara.
啊，
Sacha lapche dan kangri niga yana tara yang tang song.
这是总子的当然是，
Som dira.
我成个东我不见我你整人当然是， 我在这里当真的那种大伙家完这种把社交的凶多，但那种不太可能，看着行动干嘛鬼呢是点巧鬼去呢，
This
拉不起大
This go. Kangri.
行动干嘛生活动嘛干嘛
Senge tongba kamo.
鬼去呢是鬼去呢，
Dem chora.
这点巧鬼去呢。
Uh-huh.
我真的拉不起大众车目，总肯定是拉不起大动漫的，真的吧？
Ane tak
去大的这啥的，他们写什么？
tak dong nako.
大众车务，
Chawu.
嗯，
Chawu sina ti na is kaborora.
如那后这些的车务了，
Kantira great. Okay. Ti
总肯定点巧，
sungni.
点巧总，这的跑动那后爬动漫那后，这头肯定是，我的那种不对，我的听着，是吧？听着当，真的差不多年听着当呢，但那种大国家玩这种是主要的，这下的也是，我这对。我打听上次别家来不起的，看着这种着急，别因为就看虚成就别忙不完，看着他来不起就不嘛的，天黑嘛那的就忙起来有的他，你嘛就看也虚的成就别忙不，打听上次其他有嘛了，我才成就的，他前面那个还是，但根据这种质量是我接的，接啊，他强在情报提前他不来数据前他，
Des chamera ka ase kare.
这当根据人质量是我接的是根据。 大伙这几天总共估计每是的，还拿货用做是根据种下的，我这是根据去年们今年了。我听这种这女这做这强在进步，我提开前他们中这种的，
Chamera ka ase songre.
我这上面那个是这种的了。我今年的这趟整个种这确实我点是样的，但泡沫出来，前两上马街或是你去看上的那种路上去我马街吧，今年们去些。 泡沫出来，咱几天种提前了，真的，咱几天种我嘛是做起，但我点做才举之前，但这种种恰从这点这种恰成，我点想了每种是top 是的，我在成都人我在恰的，有的是军的地上，我说看他的这今年过个叫的程度啊，这是我的大样。
So before we go into the text, back to the text, just wanted to mention a little bit about the historical background of the fivefold path of Mahamudra. A question came up, and it would be good to know really where this comes from. And so first of all, so it's called the Drikung Fivefold Path of Mahamudra. So Drikung is a branch of the Kagyu lineage, and Kagyu means literally Ga, Kagyu, actually it's Ga. Ga means the word of the Buddha or oral, the actual words of the Buddha, and Gyu means like a lineage or transmitted by. So Kagyu actually literally means transmitted the words, the transmitted words of the Buddha. And So that's the name. And then Drikung became a branch of the
这共是
of the
17枚
Kagyu.
的，这共是17枚的。
It became a branch because Drikung, it got his name because it's the name of a place where it originated. So that's the Drikung. Drikung is the name of a place, and Kagyu is the lineage. And the Drikung Kagyu lineage began with Lord Chikden Sumgun 846 years ago. And so we won't go into Chikden Sumgun's life story, but there are, just in brief, there are many prophecies in the past mentioned in the sutras and the tantras about his coming, that foretold Chikden Sumgun's coming. And also actually Marpa gave a prophecy to Milarepa, and that was way before Chikden Sumgun was alive. And so when Milarepa was alive with Marpa, so there were two main holy places that Marpa sent Milarepa to practice at, and that was Lapchi and Mount Kailash. And so in the future there will be three holy places for Chikden Sumgun's disciples to practice. That is Lapchi, Mount Kailash, and Tsari. But at the time of Marpa Milarepa, he didn't yet he didn't include Tsari in that list, but he mentioned it, and he said Marpa said that now is not the time to make Tsari holy retreat place, but that time will come in the future. Your future disciples, the lineage of your future disciples, will then include Tsari as one of their holy retreat places. But Marpa did not include it at that time, and he only sent Milarepa to Lapchi and to Mount Kailash. And then Milarepa did go there and practice there. But he didn't go to Tsari yet. That came later. And so that started with actually one of Milarepa's disciples, Gampopa, who sent his disciple. So Gampopa had a disciple called Kibut Yishe Dorje, and he sent his disciple first to Tsari. And that was because so Gampopa, actually, so how that happened is Gampopa then like officially told his other disciple, Pamodropa, that he needed to send his disciples to those three places, so Mount Kailash, Tsari, and Lapchi. And so that was the command, the instruction that Pamodropa received from his guru Gampopa. So Gampopa only sent one of his own personal disciples to Tsari, but the general instructions of making this a holy place was given to Pamodropa. But then like, things just didn't fall in place for Pamodropa to actually accomplish that. So he passed that on to his disciple, Chikden Sumgun. And then he was actually the one, Chikden Sumgun was then the one who actually was the first one to send his own disciples then to those three places, and to then actually officially establish those three places as the three sacred sites to go and do retreat, to go and practice. So before there was more a talk of those places, but with Chikden Sumgun, those three holy places of Lapchi, Mount Kailash, and Tsari.
这气什么的，这个格局，另类的，你看中国你泡沫吹中的，好像吧？ 另界的，
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah. Yes, I missed that. I'm sorry. So, die linke Rekpa, die Gampopa gesungen, oder?
泡沫吹中的吧？你看中国
Yeah, sorry, my handwriting. So Pamodropa told Chikden Sumgun to make those three places a holy place, but he also told that to Drukpa Kagulama Lingi Repa. So he told that to Lingi Repa and to Chikden Sumgun that they need to send their disciples there. And so then Chikden Sumgun was then the first one who actually sent his closest disciples to those three places. And that was also with Chikden Sumgun. That was the time where these three places became like really established as like holy sites for Drikung practitioners to go and practice. And in the Drukpa Kagyu lineage, then also and the Nilingi Repa Gitang Songa Kashe.
Lingye bai loma samba jare ro ta.
And so then Lingi Regpa in the Drupa Kagyu, then he told his disciple Tsang Bagyari to send his own students there. And so then they were Tini Nyung Ga Chu Sum, then took Kanare, the Drupa Kagura,
전 지금 가지 라 뉴가 쇼소.
Tini Hisu Tangsung.
전 이게 좀 어떤 알아 봐.
Oh, yeah. So then, so at the same time, so Tsangpa Gyare was sending his own disciples, and then Jigten Sumgyun was sending his first three disciples. So they were so in brief, they called Nyung Garchu, but they elaborated. They are Nyung Gyalva Lanun, Garchu Dingpa, is it? And then Palchen Chuye. So there's those three disciples that were then kind of made the kind of overseers, regents of those three holy places, and then so at that time, so Jigten Sumgyun stayed at Drikung Til at a monastery, and he had many disciples. And so he was teaching many disciples, but one day he felt a bit weary of all of that, and felt like he needed to leave. And so he withdrew himself, and he went to a nearby cave called the Tsapo Cave in that region. And so he was lost for some time, and his disciples were searching for him, and they finally found him there at that cave. And so while he was there at that cave, what had happened there was that some local spirits approached Jigten Sumgyun, and they asked him to please come to all the sacred places in the Himalayas, and please go there and practice there, and grant your presence there. And so at first, through some miraculous powers, Jigten Sumgyun, he traveled there miraculously. And then when he was there, then those local spirits at those places all requested him, please stay here, don't leave. But Jigten Sumgyun told them that I cannot stay because I have so many disciples at Drikung Til, and I have to care for them, I have to look after them. And so then he returned back to that cave, and that's where his disciples then found him. They found him sleeping inside that cave. And then those monks, his disciples, they requested him, please, Lama, come back to the monastery, and we need you to teach us. And then Jigten Sumgyun said that I escaped because I needed to do retreat. So now it's either you or me. If you want me to come back, then you'll have to go and do a retreat. And if you go and do retreat, then I will return to Drikung. But otherwise, if you don't, then I will be the one doing retreat. But somebody has to do a retreat. And so then they agreed and said, okay, we will do the retreat, and you return. So then Jigten Sumgyun returned, and then he divided his disciples into three groups, and at three different times he sent them to those three holy places. And during the third time he dispatched his disciples to those three places, he sent the largest amounts of disciples. And at that time he sent 55,525 practitioners to each of these three sites. So each got 55,525 retreatants. And at that time, Jigten Sumgyun was 72 years old. And so he sent his disciples to those three places, and then those three places became known as the holy Drikung Kagyu retreat places. And then for Mount Kailash, it was said that Mount Kailash is shaped like a white snow lion face, and it is said to be the abode of Chakasambhara's enlightened form. And then Lapchi is shaped like a gray, like snow, like a tiger's face, and that is said to be the abode of Chakasambhara's enlightened speech. And then Tsarim is looks like resembles a black sow's head, like a pig's head, a sow's head, and a face. And that is, Sari is the place of Chakasambhara's enlightened mind. So Jigten Sumgyen sent his students in 3 groups to those 3 places, and these 3 places became renowned as the Jigung Kagyu retreat places. And so nowadays, we still have those places, and many of those old caves from the past are still present throughout the Himalayan region. And there's many of those retreat places and caves and so on where those masters practiced. And also, Changme Raga Asia had praised this activity, and he said that this is how the Kagyu activities have been really multiplied. So Jigten Sumgyen did so much to increase the Kagyu activities, and especially when he was still alive, he sent so many practitioners to practice at those places. And so Changme Asya said that these places truly are places blessed through the blessings of Mahamudra practice. And so, as we mentioned also last time, Mahamudra told Jigten Sumgyen that you must never separate from the fivefold path of Mahamudra until attaining enlightenment. So this fivefold path of Mahamudra was then the main practice that Mahamudra then had passed on to Jigten Sumgyen, and Jigten Sumgyen then taught to his own disciples to practice at those places, and with the instruction to never separate from them until attaining enlightenment. And so that is why the practice is referred to as the Drikung fivefold path of Mahamudra.
我在这里我在那里把它的的今天从国产米下对单还能好用作个军种，差的有的是那枪米看，我这期
Die Schallschuhbäcker,
我今天从国产米种米那些手的米子呢，米种，然后好用作个军种差的是枪米那个是说这种多，我这里它的我可以看到的。nga tan dai sig ma de zuma dong do la phyo de sing zong ma jong yo
Kala la bitok
nga ta nga bya nga chen nga thong nga bya ni sa nga la go nga dai de le tin du zo pe ja yong ya ka le kha wo de se ha tin du sing zong da mya yo de ina te ka yi ta te la wo de ji gan zong mo ten de nga ni de le sku tim ti ma de na rang de se nga tan dai is ten de wang jo de yo de se ji gan zong ha ko zong 我这让印象这是，我等于老师送去的。我当时这个这当时那种不经过嘛的，海马来的就从嘛他都没看到，那种不经过的熊嘛他们我这是，哎呀，就从嘛看，他提起真，
Yeah. So regarding what Changme Raga Asya said, he said that at the end, toward the end of Jigten Sumgyen's life, in the later part of Jigten Sumgyen's life, in fact, the entire Tibetan region almost became all Kagyu because he sent all of his disciples all over. And then regarding that number, where he said that Jigten Sumgyen sent 55,525 to each of those places. So there's some people who find that hard to believe. So they think that like that's not possible. It's really hard. Like how do he send exactly that many to all of these places, and especially that many? And that seems very unlikely. But actually, it did happen, and it not only did it, but it was not even arranged that way. It was not decided that he's going to send that many numbers, but it naturally just happened. It turned out to be that many numbers. And also, it's not only those specific 3 places, it's more the region throughout the Himalayas. Obviously, that many people will not fit in just this small place, but he did send that amount of people to those regions.
我等nga等这拉音吧，nga的拉音吧，讲的拉。
Minga, disko. Di ngap chi ngap tong di shu tsengal mare.
我这nga chen nga thong nga bya ni sang nga le dai sig ma re sen ru zo yong ma re se la
Nga dang sig mare se.
nga jin ba wa nga che nga thong nga bja ni san nga ro
Yeah, yeah.
o ten du zong zhe ga ga le kha bo re zo ting
Yeah,
la
di la na.
la min ba
Ngap ton di je de kapores la.
chang ka ten du nga de ga se wa
Yeah.
o
Yeah,
ten
tak di je de. Yeah,
zhe
yeah.
ga ga le kha bo re se ting na
Yes, yes.
ji gan zong dem jing an de nga de se
Yes.
ja ja da ka sang be jia ting ta zhen zang ja okay
And we go back to the text.
ja ten da ka zang ga zo ti xin le guo de shi ha yin ba 我等呢，就当现在开张，当然说，提现在在多种新一种供养中的，我但马大被就是现在是那的，然后呢，在我说多种新一种，他说这是空气中嘛，我有了，我说这一点有了，觉得我觉得这一点就提空气特点呢，真的在其他地方，可能是那他的供养的是来了，可能是。我听对的都的新一听怎么当呀，听对的。好像呢，在这里欧当呀，在那说欧就那当的人，没把怎么当嘛嘛，欧就那当时欧话我说我差不多，我听对去听没关系的呢，俺想不想买因为去呢，我是说自己是来了个的是吧？
Yeah. So coming back to the text, and so we talked yesterday a bit about shamatha, karmic binding, and we said that as a focal object, we can use, for example, stone or a piece of wood as a focal object to focus on. And that is generally an impure object, focal object. But on the other hand, even though it is just an ordinary object, it is also something that we are more familiar with. And if we are using something that we are already familiar with, like a rock, we always see rocks, then it might be easier for us to focus our mind on that than something that we're not unfamiliar with. And so that's one thing. And the other focus that is easy for us to use is just focus on your natural breathing. That's also something obviously we are familiar with. We don't have to think about breathing. It happens naturally on its own. And so now we just bring our focus on it. We just are aware of our inhalation, our exhalation as we breathe naturally. It's maybe easier for us to keep our attention there and to stay undistracted because that's also one thing that we are familiar with.
哦，等等，当现在点钱，他比现在钱呢，他上节股票才有的，然后上节股中在每天下，我上节股他每天下，这上节股他每个玩意我起的呢，听对股票才有，他这可是呢上节股在点呢在数据的上节股发下下头呀，然后呢这是我的数据发下头呀，我的做那么做呀，我做那做头呀，听对有的意思。 我他挺有的，真的，我真的，我他挺有的，这是他被现在生了，他这挺有的吧？我满眼把今天是上节国体刚下来。
And then, oh yeah.
上节国体刚下来，对，没关系。
And then there is also the pure shamatha with a support. So there's also a way of practicing shamatha using a focal object that is pure. For example, the image of a Buddha, I guess, or a statue, a form of a Buddha, we can place that in front of us and then look at that and use that as our object of focus. And then the advantage of that is that if you use a pure object of focus and you stay on that without distraction, then you are placing a good imprint, an imprint of the Buddha into your mind. And at the same time, therefore, you're also accumulating merit. And so that is called the pure shamatha with a support. That is when you use a pure image like a Buddha form as your support for undistracted focus.
哦，真的，他上节公共的用的有的没那，说对于这么啥没客气呢？我他挺多光不过去，但俺当初第一次是我们家人，他是上节过头光那的，马大课上拉票，他都光那7、8门都的话第一次是， 做光家还干嘛也是，
And so that image of the Buddha can be an actual, a real image that you place in front of you, or you can also visualize it. And so now we are going to practice that for a few minutes. So you can practice any form of shamatha, whether it is a pure or an impure object of focus. So we're going to, you can choose that for yourself, and we're going to practice for a few minutes.
的现在在我们对这档上节过程中是我们呢，在青蛙的目标的学前波穷那上节下，民生让我想的是呢，真的超过些前波用那学前上让我想的，真的有点把推开做是把太看让我想的呢，这个是的。
But then when we practice shamatha, we can experience some kind of hindrances in the meditations. That it is we may sometimes lose our clarity, or we may become agitated. So when you lose your clarity, or when you become dull, and you're using, for example, a Buddha form and image as your object of focus, then you can, so when you're feeling dull, you can raise your focus and focus more on the upper part, like between the point of the Buddha's eyebrows, like the crown of the Buddha. And then when you feel more dull, then when you feel more agitated and there's many thoughts in the mind, then you can lower your gaze and focus more on the seat, the lower part of the Buddha. And then generally, just when there is no such a fault arising, you can just simply look straight at the image of the Buddha.
他陈主琴呢，真的觉得应该做这把牌讲说那么做啥特别的，然后今年我们对今年我们特别的偏托提修的也种多。
Yeah, so practicing in this way is helpful for purifying obscurations, accumulating merit, and also habituating to the generation stage.
然后呢，他陈主琴呢，这个是中英中中，有了中西英中中，点讲吧，是中英可是呢，让跟对起怕他才看着得了啦，那边经过穷穷节气，那边经过穷穷节气，等于红红不提倡那些穷穷红红不是么超节，红红不是么超节不提倡，不记得穷穷有了超有了。我听到一些，我在俺抽的了，我在看到这个刚才嘛讲到说啥，但是我在俺抽的了，我这里现在这个呢哈但是从印度，但是过来讲，从来讲，我从印度的讲呀，这里是，我在这天就在其中呢这里在就这种呢，他就从的是上节头上节我的是，红的上节上节头看我的是，我听的红的讲呢，也一直把这讲特别他就偏用，我一直把讲说那么说下，他偏同有的是。
So that is a way to focus on enlightened form, but there's also a way to use enlightened speech as a focal object. So for that, you can meditate on a seed syllable representing speech. And how you do that is you visualize in front of you a small moon disk seed. And on top of that moon disk, you visualize as very small hung syllable that is very fine, like a sketch drawn, as fine as a hair strand. So a very fine small hung syllable on top of that moon disk. And then imagine that from this hung syllable, 5 colored lights radiate. And then you just focus on that single pointedly. And that is a way of practicing, meditating, or kind of meditating of single pointedly on the basis of enlightened speech. And the benefit of that is explained in the Tantras. It is said that the essence of all the Buddha's speech gathers in the syllable hung, and also the essence of the Buddha's mind gathers in the syllable hung. And by focusing on the syllable hung, as the seed syllable, you are therefore purifying mind obscurations and also accumulate merit.
真的，总把这个他在个种他透听来的，我们是听来人，但对南卡了，别讲对南卡了，听来这我在在马上穷穷是在他这当甚至在一个的是，我的其实那些在我就那个说啥，其实那些有吧，现在我是个说啥的，但是在嘛，其实那些件事，美国这地国的也是对了，这我的说的这趟在现在我其实那些有就是在嘛是穷穷，我听着这一刻，但其实那些讲他没块这呢，他他了，的相信他就我还有啥的。我听对的都这样看着就做出来，这那些才看了，真的用卡咱们的我们这拉票，但用卡人的凶啥的，这马上我们的票啥的，我的。
Die Tele, die Jungfrau, dann schon kommen.
第二用卡咱们就打噻，但这嘛咱就讲这个啥，这嘛人别穷穷着啊。
And then the third way is to use the enlightened mind as a support, and to represent the enlightened mind, you can visualize a bindu, a tigle, or like a sphere, and that you visualize in front of you in the space before you. All you see is a small bindu, a sphere the size of about a lentil, and it is transparent and luminous and like a crystal. So just focus on that. So it radiating with some, it's radiant and transparent. And then you just focus on that single-pointedly. Actually, in a tantra called the Vajradakini Tantra, it actually says that this bindu should be visualized the size of a mustard seed, but that seems really a little bit too small for the most part. So therefore, it seems acceptable to visualize it the size of a lentil.
我这次说在广红的，但是一个写着针灸嘛，写着针体那下面那边干嘞有嘞，你嘛头干嘞，好像说我长呢在，他好你口呀，然后我在，然后先冲着呀，听着有嘞，那陈路那边传些粗心思，陈路娘把是个说，真把的路把娘把是，我真的俺说这年才懂在那么多，这年懂的，我把汤长的气着个是，路长扎懂这个嘛的是，我把陈路娘不送那的扎通个是这年的。我在那一趟，我做这个在这趟是这个承诺那边呈现出息，他或者是那么讲的，总有了承诺那边呈现出息呢是，承诺那边呈现出息呢，两班交呗，他们可以点就这是，我这总有了点的，他两班交了，他们可以往这个也是。
And then so when you focus, then what you don't want to do is you don't want to actually focus too intensely, because if you strain yourself too much, if you try too hard to focus, then the mind will just become weary of it, and then it will be just hard to even focus at all. But on the other hand, if you are too relaxed, it's also not good. If you're too relaxed, then you may just fall asleep and also lose your focus. So you need to find a middle way between too tight and too loose. It is just like when you're stringing a guitar, the guitar strings. If you string them too tightly, then those strings will snap. But if they are too loose, then they will not produce any sound. So you need to string them just in the right measure, just right for there to be a sound. So it needs to be some balance in between without being too tight and too loose. And also Tapo Dashi Namgyal said that you need to be mindful of applying a measure between tight and loose. You need to apply focus and relaxation in just the right measure. So one needs to be skillful in finding that, so to speak, sweet spot.
他呢，我他做新的电线，现在电线做的，我电线做的，他呢，他俺做，他自己是工家，因为现在听你不开始工那，经常做，那个其实我在做开始工的。我做过的他现在工厂这们的，现在俺做好说乱推把的，做过工那这条的是，做做什么样子，从嘛进行面工作我也要嘛，说那工出来也是这什么结果呢？提高工呢，他那工的家出来的下个的，我听的开始工那去把门都是吧？
And so now we are also going to practice that. So we have now covered different ways of practicing shamatha with the support, and we're going to meditate on that for a little while. And again, it's really up to you, whichever one you choose. So there are many different kinds of shamatha that we have covered now, and you have to see whichever works best for you. So there might be one where you feel that this one just it works better for me than the other one, then use that one. You don't have to practice them all. And we mentioned them also that you can choose whichever one works best for you. And then when you find that method that suits you the best, then you just practice that. So it actually makes really no difference which one you choose.
The lentil, does it matter where?
那对于说哪个吧，对于它的光这小啥的。
In front of you, you can say it's probably okay if it's around the nose level, but in front of you.
저는 다 지수现在电线是个吧，我现在电线是了，电堂几把的。我到店面现在在他先买一把小样东西，他课上别家电脑这里多，他俺做车课上送一把，产品进步，啥啦还现在是一两没几，现在进步，只有看到这话没几，是我到一两没几次，一没几，现在课上那他一根金把子解决嘛的意思，他买一把进的先那路讲，两两起过的意思。我真的这个他看到这话，那就把是，我他这个也或者瞧这种的这个的，我都不认多啥的，这这多怕这他话这过的意思，我这中多。
Yeah. So all of this until this point, we were speaking about shamatha with support, and now the shamatha without a support. So that is simply to rest in the natural state of the mind without any distraction. And so here in the coming back to our text, it says here there's a quote by the great Brahmin Saraha. Non-conceptuality is the body of Mahamudra. Yogi, don't expect any result. Non-conceptuality here is to not engage the mind in anything at all. And so to just stay natural in the natural state of mind without any distraction. And do not expect any results. So do not hope for some good outcome or don't worry about a bad outcome. Just set aside all hope and fear.
真的，他这里是中多，他那先怕了，干的东半年工资没说，但是怎么样说，先的东半年，忙不在路去的，说东半年说，东你做说所有的工资的话，我对工人这个嘛是路肯定把用那的，也不嘛的是，我真的，罗一秋去论的同门同时在的，我说恰才看看嘛哪有啊，罗一秋去论的同门同时。前边秋节前面啥么的，他忙不在起就在这到忙不在起那的前面啥的都不嘛的是，前边秋节前面啥么的，弄的前面通他差不多那是，老人的嘞，前边没别的通差不多那，让先自己这个结果说是，让先自己就过来是，先自己呢真的这个结果说是，这个是先在那多个土老买好吧，真的结果。真的结果是呢，他土老没别个吃的话，先他让一口，那路提讲这娘们几多才吃过学的是，让什么这个人把结果学是，都会吃嘛就才糖就些的，或者都会吃嘛就才怕，那么多吃嘛就是把糖就过来是，别讲了就这个后来这呢确实老可能，就这那咱怕咱们去那咱们去地说呢，在中间那咱们是什么冲着个哇？我到这就这个把下就是可能下咱们就是说嘛，样着同样的去糖包吃着个哇。都会吃嘛就才尝试，那我搞着没叫让说说是，我这那我的搞着没叫让说是搞过嘛是做过嘛的是，说让说下是在蛮因为现在这先跟那路提纲的下过的是，那我搞着没叫让说下，帮那面呢瞧在进步意思，帮他怕的这热到帮那自助面呢，他瞧在进步意思多对路别提瞧在看看么能有啊。
Then it says, so there is no meditation projecting emptiness by the mind. So that means that so one should don't mentally fabricate this concept of emptiness, this idea of what emptiness is. And so sometimes we do that, we fabricate emptiness mentally, so intellectually, and any kind of grasping is not good for your meditation, even if it's grasping at emptiness. Tilopa said in Ganges Mahamudra that which lies beyond the intellect cannot be understood by means of the intellect. And so meaning that through using our intellectual reasoning, we cannot arrive at that which lies beyond reasoning, beyond the intellect. And he also said that which is effortless, the effortless cannot be reached through effort. So you have to allow the mind to be natural. So meaning that you just look directly at your awareness. So Tilopa said, look at your naked awareness, which is that is uncovered by like the clothes, the covering of your intellect, your reasoning. You just should look at the naked mind as it is directly and sustain that nature continuously without distraction. And then if you just let it all be as it is and you just look at its naked nature, then these stains of thoughts will just clear on their own eventually. For example, if you imagine a cup of water, you have some earth, some mud in that water. If you keep stirring that water, then the water will always appear cloudy and you won't see anything. But if you just leave it alone, then eventually the earth in the water will settle on its own. And once it's settled, then the clear water appears to you. And so in the same way, you should allow the mind to just settle naturally. And in that state where you settle naturally, there is nothing to reject, no thought that you're rejecting. There's nothing that you do. You don't reject, and there's nothing to accomplish. You simply remain. You simply be as you are, undistracted, without any rejection or adoption or any hopes or expectations or fears. So Tilopa said that is Mahamudra.
tene ta tsere ma ar tsi tiong du tene ta dong ba ni gom ji mi so la de na kan do ta ye gom ji mi ta se mo so ze da ong yin ta kan do sen tong ya yo ma le ye bi yo ma le no de ye bi yo ma lo ye sen de ri kan sem den do ya kan ya ma kan do yo ma le ye bi gom ji mi de be de ma mo ta ta tu som ji sang jie sam ji ke ma ze se wo de wo da 내 마음은 다다 뒤som 상제 참치 sempre 뭐 예 간도 내를 이제 소녀로 말했어. 어때 세요 말아. 됐어요 요 말했어. 다음 대로 배송으로 나로 봐 가르쳐놓으면 내는 라래 이시에 대해서 nga lam di yi ji ju yu mes de lo nga ye jian yang dian de mi de lo nga dian de yu mas so wo ce la pyo da la me xi lang da de pa chuo dian so wo ce chuo guang ne nyam shi yong de de xian ping de lo ha guo de pa cha chuo le la pyo le men ce la me de lu de se do do ji da zhen do ya ma le song pyo le ce de lo nga ye ji yang dian de mi da na lo chuo lang ha guo guo le so wo ce chuo guang ne wo ce ha guo guo le wo ce song pyo le
Then it says, so there is no emptiness to meditate upon, and neither looking inside is there anything to meditate upon, such as shape or color. So there is no shape or color. When you actually look at the mind, then you won't see any shape or color. There's nothing, no form that you can find when you look at the mind. And the Buddhas of the past, present, and future have not seen the nature of the mind, meaning that even the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, when looking at the mind, have not seen anything. So they haven't seen a shape or a color. Even they couldn't find anything there. And Tilopa said to Naropa, this awareness, your own intrinsic awareness, your wisdom mind, is something that is beyond, I cannot express to you in words. It cannot be expressed in words. It cannot even be thought of by concepts. I cannot actually show it to you. I can indicate it to you so the guru can point it out. I can point you in that direction, but the guru cannot actually show it to you. To see it, Tilopa said, you can only understand it truly if you practice and see it yourself and realize it yourself. So this is something that cannot be shown to you by anyone. It cannot be talked about, expressed in any way. It's something that can only be known through your own direct experience.
我真的特别上网对吧？嘞，是我不他们去车吧，因为碰碰看不当捡起，是但我不他们去当车都是碰碰看不当捡起，送当这把那把是求到明白？我在碰碰看捡起了说话的，送这那跑帮上求到没是个是。但让什么多呢？嘛钱东半年一让起都让些东半的借牛嘛，是东半的一让起的是借嘛，但是他看啥他们的人啥的，他啊是这有嘛的是借嘛样的，有嘛的话或者看啥他们就会说啥的。
Then there's a quote from the Guhyasamaja Tantra: free from all existent phenomena, the aggregates, elements, and increasing fields. So here the increasing fields refers to the sense fields, the sense spaces. They are fully abandon grasping and fixation. So have no so do not grasp or identify in an ordinary sense with your aggregates, elements, and sense sources. So with your being, and then the equality of selfless phenomena, the primordially unborn mind. This is the nature of emptiness. So this is he's speaking about the selflessness of the person. So that no here this quote explains how the nature of emptiness of this me, how we do not identify with our aggregates, elements, and sense sources. That there is no me, no self to be found. So that's the selflessness of a person.
我真的，他头上那把他们去，头他们去是吧？公把钱吧，当公鸡去那把多话，一来没接，老板就把意思。我他头他们去肯定呢，公把钱吧是公把钱吧当公鸡，他公把的钱吧是东把你公没东西，啊东把你公鸡东，可是东把你东西公给了他，公多啊，我他头公就嘛是那把多话，听你可以看呀，一来没接，把老板就是让啥货是那个，先不让我下是，我这先让我下是，我们过去的那边对嘛，有说的那边对嘛是听呢。kapzon orsena deda yi ki yu tun jiwa nas deda yi ki yu tun jiwa na nyomo tongye tokwa je sha ri nas nyomo tongye tokwa je dan sha ru ba dis je sha ri han sungji tokwa tun sha ru ge wa nyomo tongye tokwa je sha ri han ngo su je chu lo yi ju me so ma mo ba so ngo su gu ma ri ta de de ro sa le de je ju gu ma ri ngo su je chu lo yi ju me ju lo ju ju ma lo yi ju me ju jiwa rangsa xia ba qiu ku chors wadan jiwa rangsa xia guo是rangwa ke nang la xia zi nam to ji chung na ta chen ba man yin wa zi nang la xia guo是wa ti xia tang de qiu ku chor de jiwa rangsa xia ba qiu ku chor song luo
Then in all times, the conceptual mind should be free from meditation and meditator, abiding effortlessly. So even when we meditate on emptiness, it should be free from this dualistic concept of there is this emptiness to meditate on and the meditator meditating on emptiness. So do not engage the mind in this duality of meditation and meditator, but simply relax. So abide effortlessly means simply relax in the natural state of the mind as it is. Then Guru Rinpoche taught in the 7 chapters application. So in there, one line says, whatever arises in the mind, afflictive emotions or thoughts, suffering concepts, whatever appears, let it be as it is. Do not engage in it. Do not anticipate the future, and do not entertain the past or chase the present. Let whatever come arise on its own and rest naturally, and rest with whatever arises in the mind without distraction. So rest with whatever thought appears in your mind, rest with it, and then that thought eventually will liberate on its own. It will dissolve on its own, and that is what we call liberation into the Dharmakaya.
我真的我在这里这张题那的第六边去求抽现在对吧？ 我的秋抽的，就当他秋抽的那敲在上嘛，进步上嘛，他听到对头的谁呢？敲在进步上那他现在店面上，让我头大几块能为。我在最开始呢，秋抽听到开始中时呢，没弄些了的，没弄些了给那个了，那边他解决过嘛的也是了不，但那边那做成说解决那个联系性面有嘛的。没弄些，没什么些啊。开始这么多在忙吧，在他那跑在用个的什么地方在，什么当多那跑没用空，说车这起，这起地方在那跑下过了吧，抢着个了，在苏格嘛的，是有一个是那忙吧用的用没用的，去讨论都是了吧。没弄没什没什么些，没什么些，他这些把它说就看样嘛都这样下过的是，说就当就嘛的是没弄没什么没些。我们公司啊，当然东半年这我公司在那跑在运动，在东半年光顾的时候呢，这就去过嘛，是没公司。没去是他的想不让我下的那他这可能没那样在运动，他就去嘛，是让我下前边没的，那在光不了的是嘛，啊，当时去都光嘛的是，我没去是，那门头嘛上没去，没光没去让啥学士，我在让啥学士，他想没我提让我提可能了，让说提那了下过的是。我这咱想没吧，天天想不我的呢，全把没我去，那天你们俩去听那，他下过的是我这种路啊，我这另外做，但是他第一是这个咩意思？我们讲你想没吧，去全把没吧，去让说下呢。
There are six dharmas by Tilopa, and they actually also they really contain the meaning of what we mentioned here. So in essence, they really represent the essence of Mahamudra, or also the shamatha without a support. So just to mention those six dharmas briefly. So the first one is called do not dwell, do not dwell. So meaning that do not dwell on the past, do not entertain, think about what happened in the past, because those things that happened in the past are already gone, and there's nothing you can do about it because it's already past, and just keeping to ruminate about them will only exhaust you and not accomplish anything. So do not dwell on the past. Then second is do not anticipate. Do not anticipate the future. You don't know what will happen in the future. So don't make all kinds of plans and preparations in your mind ahead. Let whatever come. Let the future unfold on its own. As one is do not engage, and that refers to the present thoughts, things pertaining to the present. So don't try to alter your present state, whatever that is. Just let it, whatever that state is, let it be as it is, without doing anything to it. Don't alter anything. Just be as you are right now. Then number four is don't meditate. So that means don't deliberately fabricate this idea of meditation. For example, I'm meditating on emptiness. Then number five is don't force, in a sense, that don't force yourself. So just let yourself settle naturally. So don't no, make the mind be a certain way, thinking like worrying about let's say maybe a better word is analyze. Don't analyze, so that you don't think too much about am I really doing it right or am I doing it wrong. So don't over analyze when you meditate. And then number six is settle naturally. So just rest in the natural state without distraction. And then just look at the nature of your mind. So these are the six dharmas by Tilopa. And we are now going to meditate on that for a few moments. So just sustain some undistracted mindfulness for a few moments.
真的，这里马路上的那真多太阳被几百多节的是几百多人，这道理解没光的，如果他们去光把的车子，他们去去你用些呢，光他没别，光他没你光把我说的，那一光的就嘛是如果他们去的那楼梯上那都是说啥了光把了，他们去去你那楼梯，去你那楼他过上了，那光他没别光把是，但是这种说啥的。
And then in the Hivajra Tantra states, if one does not meditate consciously, that is the meditation of all migrators. If one understands that everything is dharmata, that is non-meditating meditation. That is, if one doesn't meditate consciously, as in a deliberate meditation, a conceptual meditation, that is the actual meditation to engage in, essentially. And when one understands that everything is dharmata, that everything is reality itself, then that itself, that knowing itself is the meditation beyond meditation.
真的，大体的吧，光听就热完没吧？没被拖坏什么？那边年不在其他的光票现在热完的，这样光就没在的，路在忙不在，说不清忙不在，那边年不的，那说不清忙不在，光敲在前不在，可完了，当然咱们也是，那就没那个事，我到这那个把这什么马球呗，公鸡别送汤，这边让个下，是我到什么马球吧的，那公鸡。你把他让个的相片的路讲，我讲呢，全把满人把钱的，他提讲的下过来也是让个下件，准备前边去军纪没把路把的讲话巧，所以准备前边他就当准备前把的第四个来好过来，唐不我说，那做些前把第四名，那准备前把那根嘛，我唐不我让说这空皮其他，没那我们讲的，我听对唐不做些前把第四的呀的，空松那这光可能做来我呀，我听着有啥的吧，我听的他的。就是买了那边国际话，经常开始说呢，他写中忙不进特别的，我听到写什么呢？写进的是，写呢去年东北写的是，我写去年东北你写的是，那边那嘛谈不意思，但那边那嘛谈不意思，我忙不就那太没就是，但忙不当时忙不在前单的路讲说写写不出嘛的意思，很姐姐那太不意思，很什么很姐姐把他过送那的，那是写写不意思呢，我送去吧。
And then it says the expectation, this is meditation, or the fear, this is not meditation, or the mind's abiding in the thought, I have received such a profound teaching, will not help one to go past samsara. All of these thoughts, which are essentially hope and fear, or expectations, all of this ruminating in the mind will only continue this cycle of samsara. And so therefore, abide in the uncontrived mind without meditation or meditator naturally as it is. And so yeah, in this way, spontaneously sustain unceasing mindfulness without effort. So let the mind be as it is, uncontrived, meaning that without doing anything to it, without altering anything. Just be mindful and don't do anything else. And just kind of let the mind hold itself and just sustain that without distraction. And so then and it says here, do this effortlessly without making an effort. So regarding that, so of course, ultimately it has to be effortless, but in the beginning, without any effort, we cannot arrive at the effortless stage. So that really refers to later on, once you have become habituated, then you should allow it to the meditation, that the state of being in the natural state effortless. But at first, in order to get there, we do have to make an effort. Milarepa had said in that song about the 3 nails. So he said there are 3 nails, and the 3, so the nails of your meditation conduct, and those 3 nails are kind of have their essence in a single nail. They all come down to a single nail, and that is the nail of Dharmata, of reality itself. And that nail is driven home by the guru. So the guru drives this nail and shows you to drive that nail. But if you analyze too much, then that nail will never be struck. It will never penetrate your mind. For that nail to penetrate your mind, you must allow the mind to settle naturally. So it is the co-immersion state or the innate natural state that allows that nail to be driven in.
근데 다들이 말할 정도 대다라 추니 넘버를 메토비 통공트 미진 이라 차르미 바테 왕트 제장 네바테 잠트 라마 탐바당 상지 탐지제 니스 메비 토이시 추거로지 바니데 소다데 대다다데 셈 라마 투바장 거르셀 콘틀랍송 와테 대다라 제 곰데디 넘버를 메토비 통공데 남토 메베가 남토 메바세다 남토 제타 남토 용거리 남토 미바세는 남토 메바세 곰고삼나 로조온도 남도 용거리다 남도 다 송지로 효요 말이스 我这从这路条从但南到提前长呢，这恰当毛上去，这来做着个意思。但南到的熊呢，南到忽然在看图上嘛，马中啊，现在前把嘛人有你们那现在南到忽然没把些啥子，前把起图个嘛意思。我这人这没套把是没套个从光头没劲，一来前面是一，但是一前面是一是要有嘛意思。然后这张那把这张子，我这张现在在那边投的上节课，他们去投你是没把意思。 我当今天做么的，我这有听了，那马上上节中，这就多边研究了之后啊，这就多边研究了，从许多我这里，我现在问啥的，就没么会切就米，我这就没么会切就米，从多红，我在这里，我这里一些去求去他罗节求完你的，你的是他那边都他妈东向这啥的。
And thus how greatly one can abide in the meaning of non-conceptual thought. Dharmata, without making effort, is the way to unite the one taste, non-duality wisdom, Dharmakaya of the holy gurus and all the Buddhas. So essentially, to whichever extent you're able to remain in this state of this non-conceptual state, to that extent, you're going to unite with the non-dual wisdom or the Dharmakaya of the Buddhas and the Guru. And so to experience this, we only have to let the mind settle naturally. And now also here, this term non-conceptual or no non-thoughts. Non-conceptual actually does not mean that no thoughts will arise, because thoughts will arise. They will always arise. So non-conceptuality doesn't mean thought-free. It means that that you do not engage with those thoughts. So they come, but they pass, and you don't engage in them, and you don't begin to by engaging in them, you don't begin to think in a dualistic way. Because if you do that, if you engage with those thoughts, if you follow them, then they become dualistic and you accumulate karma. But if you just let them be and you don't follow them and you just remain undistracted, then those thoughts, they can arise, but they will actually not be able to affect you in any way. They just come and go. And so that's the meaning of non-conceptuality. And so that then becomes this experience of unifying your mind with the Guru's mind and the Buddha's mind. And Jigten Sumgön had said that I'm a yogin who has realized that my own mind, the Guru's mind, and the Buddha's mind are one. Such realization is the effortless, uncontrived devotion.
哦，真的，到这里嘛，泡泡一些，大概一些多些，我听到多，想多那长期，现在这么个，但想多从长期就先把这道也要嘛的是，这就专门来的培种种有想多长期引那种，什么的想多那长期引那种，想多长期引那种，是我在真正我这块人啥的，我这种多，那是哪里？
And then it says in the Pakpa Daka Yeshe Sutra, so the Supreme a White Moon Wisdom Sutra, if I realize the mind that is wisdom, fully, that is wisdom. If I realize the mind, that is wisdom. Fully meditate that the Buddhas do not exist apart from that. And that is actually similar to what Milarepa had said, and he said that that's what Marpa taught him. And so he said that when you realize the nature of your mind, then you see the Buddha, and you see the Buddha within yourself. So what you see is that there's no Buddha outside of yourself.
我他就当时我当初他来长步在广红就第四个来有人我当初来了我有嘛的，他就了嘛那有马达爬巴汤，新就那么大可能新是老了马达
Matak,
爬巴汤，
matak, takpatong,
新就那么大可能，
tondakare.
他这可能就拉不过他这是把人，
Yine cidden tondakare, görs şimdi.
他马达边那个生钱的，他边那个长久。
Okay.
마다 타바다 신도 남다 고람 신스 다들 말라 거래 오늘 지금 심지어 장초 선바당 뒤인 이과 해줘도스 심지어 장초 선바 뒤인 이과我的마다那个了심지어 실기스我这他那个了장초 선바 신도 반 넘바 타서那这상제스 뒤인 이과我这那个也是我的我说先不吃嘛把他过这他要让你们俩去过我们家过真的他走过来我们家呢真的 这先给内陆港人家系统，这看来的起码把它那个，我这他从这国家这自己是来了，真多学啥的。
So now in the beginning, when we first begin to practice, then of course this is a little bit difficult to meditate in this way. But in the Uttara Tantra, it teaches that so there is the state of the impure, pure, and utterly pure. And so we purify stains gradually. So it says that the impure state is the state of a sentient being. The pure state is the state of a bodhisattva. And the utterly pure state is the state of a complete Buddha. And as we purify our mind of its defilements, and then the more we practice, the more we purify the mind of its defilements, and the more we purify this state of being a sentient being. So it's all really about just purifying those defilements in the mind. And in order to purify those impurities in the mind, the only way is to do practice, to meditate, and there's really no other way to purify the mind. And if you just keep practicing, then eventually the mind will become more and more unpurified. So the more you're just resting and sustaining the natural state of the mind, those obscurations, those stains will just become more and more purified. And the more and more they become purified, or the clearer the mind then becomes, the easier practice will become.
我真的打的去年底外面边讲，提前搞是几月走完了，我话见大不是打听敲着情报是咱做操作，但这里嘛我话听是的吧？
And then it says, always abide in the unborn nature between sessions, seal the root of virtue with the dedication to achieve perfect Buddhahood. So that completes the section of Mahamudra, and next is dedication.
我的朝鲜个电脑，我话是吧？我的其真的，但牛毛们南托那边都会花嘛就把是我的，我话其实牛毛南托花就嘛是，但可是应该嘛，咱个都别抢的，你嘛在，但你们俩去，这是牛毛南托的，这业务呢，因为我其实可怕也花的去，真的，咱们当初样的，每个人的接的那怕也花去。对，给我每个界面的给我介绍上去的，这嘛我去那也不有人是，那边嘛托被花嘛就被，如果了偏把的对半中万多，那强求强到你这样的强求现状， 我在强学生跟他我把去过的是，身边的培养通路的那前把那些强学生自己跟他我把去过的是，相当欢喜一些人，上啊跟质量着办多那一当那是那相当欢喜一些上啊质量着都咱那对我把他去过是那一当他将来我们在去过的是。我真的那么特别突然多些，那边原天9万多呢，没会昂呢，我在那边没会昂呢，对我把去过的是。我都把空从保安东办多那两解密吧，多那巧在新不可通。两把箱子，明明很好，但我为明明我为简单，明明我为解答的，等我吧，去过的种多。
Then, so for the dedication is the fifth point, the fifth practice of the fivefold path. And so it says, dedicate without the interruption of other thoughts. So, so without allowing any other thoughts to arise, and dedicate. But if thoughts have arisen before, and you didn't notice them then you can still bring that back up to mind and confess that, and then after that dedicate. So all these kind of tainted past virtues where thoughts have arisen can still be purified through confession and then dedicated retrospectively. But ideally, the ideal dedication is the non-conceptual dedication. And then if you wish to pacify if you wish to benefit and bring happiness to migrators, dedicate with love, compassion, and bodhicitta. So if you want to benefit others, then the dedication should be one of bodhicitta. If you wish to pacify the outer and inner obstacles and accomplish the activities of the secret mantra, then dedicate by seeing yourself in the form of the yidam. So then during dedication, you visualize yourself as the yidam. Then if you wish to appease and be accepted by the guru and achieve his excellent qualities, then dedicate within the state of devotion to the guru. So that is clear. And then if you wish to progress in the realization, experience, and inseparability of meditation and post-meditation, then dedicate within the equipoise of Mahamudra. So dedicating within the equipoise of Mahamudra is essentially like concluding the practice within a state of non-conceptuality.
不，等等，他身边他们就他我去啊，开始是我去那给我说给我开始啥用呢？这我嘛经常咱们空手全部浪来的，咱们这穷了哈，给我得做着个是。对我去那得给我做呀嘛，是别家是下来，开始呢，江苏呢全体过节路上呢，在江苏的刚从里面去的多个是。我在那里在我去给我穷呢，这做着呀要嘛的是他的。我真的他身边他们要是咱没白养他不做呗，强教人不拖把的圈子，在我外界大不是，现在我把行动做吧，因为是的，包括光脚这片多上几寸见面样，千古变多说，我做我在咱那这种到球呢，他们建议，但做我在说球他们的六百特的是建议的，六百在了啥的呢？看看嘛，那这真正做把的球的些种说是他在哪落下了。
And so generally for dedication, the reason why it's important to dedicate is because, so if you practice, you do something good, whatever virtue you do, if you do not dedicate that in the end, then it can become destroyed by a condition, for example, anger. When you get very angry and you have not dedicated your merit, then that virtue, that merit will become spoiled. But if you dedicate it first, then it cannot be spoiled by anger or anything else. It is just like pouring a single drop of water into the ocean. As long as the ocean remains, that drop will also remain there. And in the same way, if you dedicate your virtues, then that will always remain until you reach enlightenment. And therefore say, may I and all sentient beings achieve unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment. If you seal the dedication in this way, you will accomplish according to this dedication. The Arya Ratnakuta Sutra states, as all phenomena depend on conditions, so the goal depends on motivation. Whatever one's aspiration, it will be achieved immediately. So what this is to say that everything depends on one's, so all phenomena depend on causes and conditions, and therefore everything is determined by the cause of one's own motivation. The motivation is what drives everything. So therefore, whatever you aspire to, that will be accomplished.
我等到他给月子吧，他们去强调性，那把你就往说那么的一些从你从就是强调性，他工作不强调性，那从他强调性你，等呢，等说那么一些说啥个嘞，是等从就从这边这个，哪怕他那边求见，什么钱他们去两把求了吧，因是，我他是我因那次我他是嘛做像这个。
And when all the roots of virtue within the power of the two bodhicittas, so that is the relative and the ultimate bodhicitta, and the result of the unity of merit and wisdom become equal to the limit of space, dharmata expands and the extent of sentient beings, and one realizes one's mind in the nature of dharmakaya, then one will be free from the concepts of dedication, dedicator, and virtue. So this is called the unobjectified dedication.
真的，这这趟他俺说在桥在新坡你们来听呢，还得做那么一些错从就他做过的种学啥的做，这路边那路把种了，那么眼睛真凶了，结完没被马套吧，从你心田过了了，吃完嘛进那路把种了，我真他一大个说那么说开始找呢，这一些错是也如何的起啊，一些错是叫那路多特别这种偏错有啥的吧。我这期真的，他真多，他甚至甚至秋裤去上去多别是吧？他甚至秋裤上去，但是你秋裤那路很好了，这期，但我话他，或者说哪怕没错，我话是，但这开始呢，我话有他，即便看不，即便给月早晚从这米，他瞧着全部很好，第下个的是我话其实对，这米路他这边啊，明明我话。这明明我没办法，我被敲出去了。我热的我话怕，电脑的敲在进步关，两把它下来去呢，这也不原来是，你那是，我在这马落下呢，你这是我在落下呢。
And so especially when we practice Mahamudra, and always we need to accumulate both merit and wisdom. And Tilopa told Naropa, he said that son, all appearances, everything arises interdependently. And therefore, until you realize the unborn nature, the unarising nature, you must never separate from merit and wisdom, just like having two wheels on a chariot. You need two wheels. So here we said that, so then one realizes the nature of mind, the nature of dharmakaya, and you're free from the concept of dedication, dedicator, and virtue. So this part here is talking about the dedication that is free from the three spheres. So the three spheres are the dedication, the dedicator, and then the recipient of the dedication. So one dedicates without dividing them into three. But one simply rests in a state of Mahamudra. So how you do it is you recite your dedication and then you rest in a meditative state of Mahamudra. And that is what we call ending the practice with a dedication of non-conceptuality.
我真的前边些呢是用是我把切帕的，这也去把错一点，真的没关，没那么的亲戚马路，这你是那么多的马路下的啥的，些种说是。
And then Maitreya said, the special full dedication is the supreme deed. It is the non-objectified, unmistaken form.
我到那里嘛，在那朝鲜那点演哪在那的演哪去，到我们家呀，啊，你们那家科学界有啥的，这样的科学有啥的，别讲的是，去吧，那牛毛那钱中的，可能那啥那钱中，但他科学界有啥，他在马真着过的哇，他不是牛毛那去两人啥的，
And so after that, there are a few supplemental practices, supplement to the fivefold path, some practical advice of taking certain circumstances as the path. So, for example, taking afflictive emotions onto the path or taking sickness onto the path and so on. So we will go through them, and it begins with taking afflictive emotions onto the path.
다스리와 대니 대다라 추니 넘버를 맞춰 배경한테 네바나 치바나 지안리 집에 로워크 용모바 남포 강제장 방자 니보 니스미 바도고 바인스 다지당치는 가서 다 용모 제용 그래 그래서는 가서 말에 비드랍도 용모 제용 그래 다다티나 요래 주나마는 그래서는 네바 로워로 바타스 네바 말에 비 네바 로워로 바타네 로워를 치마레스 로워 치마라브라 네바 로워로 바타네 연태라기 니덴시스 연태라기 대한들 생각내로데 라지 연태라기 니덴데 엄마 되게 치치되긴 엄마 되게 치되긴 엄마의 나를 치마의 나를 다 되게 여러 매배 중에서 생각내로데 여러요 말에스自动여러 엄마 되게 치되긴 여러 매배 중에 더 정말 我这是这样的，这边牛毛萝卜吧，那么大多块结实，他这样结，什么他那说的，俺牛毛这么的结婚的，他牛毛地方说送这个嘛的，他牛毛是娘们去过的，别在适当的时结婚呢，他适当的做出陈别性的，适当性我在打多久呢？适当的不，停车是对适当的切换其他去的嘛，他适当做别小情不有的，来老有嘛的，适当一拿的，我这个那是他牛毛开的呢，他这里别像长多那些呢，他长多些地方先把这有的，没先把这。 说这我这也空着，咱们长岛咱们的用多，我这有的，那他就我这样的长岛直接是，他说他这建筑说的，我现在不去种多，牛毛呢都靠这长岛来种多，他才就长岛些，他才就用靠的牛毛吧呢，那把多块结实，我看见吧，他们去绑架他，年把你是没的，我到这绑架年把你是到过的，现在他可到过现在，别叫他适当的我才到那，把趁着我这结婚呢，他这适当我大家都人绑过嘛的，可能。 年报做单多有嘛？但适当我承办门在讲多人，适当可能提让一把没把抢着呗。听住呢，这以前呢适当才我那做我们讲了，如何去压着？适当才的，那做你对随便这个你对重建那的旅游了，旅游就是做白了，人那忽然评价才偏给的是，我的结果的强调是把这做牛毛。 牛毛被绿才的，那娘俩才偏给的是，我别才那下，我牛毛才已经都快手情不在结用的，适当手情不在结用呢，适当的别下的方面，那牛毛开在哪里？我这在结用的，但是娘俩去下，看着花去下，也都会咋做特别，这娘俩去他们那才绿，嘛他们那你这牛毛提往说这个的，这就办不了是吧？
So the first one is now taking the affliction as the path. Change my microphone. You still hear me, right? Yeah, sorry. And so taking the afflictions as the path, and so so first, so it says. In order to abide within the non-conceptual state, Dharmata, one needs to realize the non-duality of abandonment and remedy the adventitious, afflicting emotions arising from conditions and conceptual thought. So first, so we. So the afflictive emotions arise in our mind, and they arise because the mind is obscured by ignorance. And the Uttara Tantra says that so the mind itself is not stained, but it is obscured by this adventitious, this temporary stain, this temporary cover of the afflictions. But beneath it actually are the inherent qualities. So all the qualities are naturally already present within the mind. And they always have been from before, and they will always be. Because the nature of the mind is ever unchanging. It always is as it is, and it always has been. And it is just due to some temporary, fleeting circumstances, conditions that the afflictive emotions arise. And so sometimes, so we know how they arise. Sometimes there is no real like reason, but they just are triggered somehow, and the afflictive emotions just appear in our mind. And so sometimes, so when they arise, it is all about what we do with them. It's not good to just let them be, just leave them alone, because then they will take full control of you. So we have to practice with the afflictions that arise. So, for example, let's take anger as an example. When anger arises, then just look directly at its nature. Normally, anger is very powerful, and it's not easy to handle it actually in the moment it arises. But on the other hand, if you actually look at it directly, at its nature, and you really actually see what it is, you really are fully mindful of it, then it actually loses all its force, its power, and eventually it cannot actually do much. And the same is true for any of the other afflictions. For example, jealousy. We get jealous, for example, when someone that is equal, like a peer, appears to us, and then they threaten maybe your status or your own position. Then you fear that you may lose your position, your ranking, because somebody equal to you appears. So you get jealous. And then you have to practice with that jealousy. Actually, Gachin Rinpoche said that jealousy is actually the worst of the afflictions. And so it says here that whatever arises, you deal with it without abandoning or remedying. And so there is, so without rejecting what arises, but also without needing to apply a specific remedy to it. So what that means is that you just look directly at its nature. For any affliction, there's no special antidote for the different afflictions here, but any affliction that arises like anger, you just look at its nature. And eventually, by doing that, it will naturally disappear. And actually, then at that point, there will come a time where the affliction may even help your practice. For example, it's like fertilizer. Fertilizer is actually dirt, essentially, but it also enriches the soil. So if it's used correctly. And so in the same way, when a strong anger or any afflictive emotion arises, if you practice with it, if you really can do that, it actually can become very useful to your practice. It actually enhances your practice. Of course, if you don't practice with it, then it is not very useful. Then the affliction becomes very strong and you lose control, and it takes hold of you.
tene tedar mato se tedar mato tokpa bangshi meto be nyamla chana gejo te karba gomja sanje ki yonte menjong wana se wata tela do wata tenu ze nyamlen chi chi gore se man ze ta ze nam to ze he de ba tokpa me meto no ba dong ba ni gomya do meto ba nam to me ba so ya sam lo ji bo dang di na ti gejo ti ke te karba gomna sanje ki yonte ni na kale khabore son do
Then it says if one has not realized this and is attached to the experience of the non-conceptual state, which is the abandonment of conceptual thought, this practice will not lead to the achievement of the Buddha's excellent qualities, even should one meditate for eons. So the point is that one has to know how to practice. That's essential. And that is that one must, when one meditates, one must meditate in a non-conceptual state, and not this deliberate thought of I must eliminate all thoughts, I must meditate within emptiness. For as long as one has these deliberate intentions of needing to eliminate something and so forth, as long as one has that, it will be very difficult to ever reach the state of enlightenment.
dan de zong do tene nyong mo ba rang la nyong mo be ke na ba do kwa kan jie jiang tam ji jian zuo qin bu lab de ma de na yang tin ji jian zuo de qin bu le rang yi man de ba xin xin zu se lam do wa da zhe na ji de是da jian zuo de lab ka si yong na ku jian zuo ku na tian de jian zuo qu ji ba de那牛毛白这开始穷呢，这是给这里啊，做三 K 个这样子的呀，下路个，蛮在个牛毛做老板在街道呀，有嘛的哇， 我这里，刚刚做的教材行干嘛，让用上也去也不产这这些，让用上也去也不产的，但让去了人们这就让人们人这就把没把抢着，就可能了听这个。我当那头开始才接呢，才是去，可什么在这做讲做那那，这说先那说听这个也是，但前边新的呢。他前边嘛是那套在对方在，他在用我们那套在节目，在节目当中经历进去经历，他运气要嘛的，他运气要嘛的意思。我他在当初他在你们俩做起用，他在用我看来见到用我提去看了，他你们俩起用，他在地私下节目个的真的，我节目呢他提去那了，把那讲做穷途一种都没那里边，我把那讲做穷途啥的意思。讲座上可能多是，但讲座可能你们俩起过这种多的，我在讲座可能听，下边那路可能你们俩起多些呢。那到底是想呢？我那到底是让弄头个嘛的是？我在去年结完没呗？我们嘛，那说时间讲去年结完没呗？让一年蛮的，是我在这里，我在这几块的，在工资。
That's it. Yeah. And then it says, no matter how many waves arise from the ocean, they are not separate from the ocean. Likewise, whatever arises in the mind, such as afflicting emotions and conceptual thoughts, is not beyond the nature of the unborn dharmata. So however many waves may arise on the ocean, the wave itself is ocean water. The wave is not something other than ocean water. And the wave may rise, but it will always go back, subside back into the ocean water because it is ocean water. And similarly, thoughts will arise in the mind, but likewise, thoughts are not separate from the mind. They are the mind itself. And therefore, they will always subside back into the mind, like the wave. In the Ganges Mahamudra, it says, self-arisen, not self-born thoughts, self-arising and self-subsiding thoughts are like the ripples of on water, like ripples on water. They arise and they dissipate on their own. So thoughts will arise. But when they arise, if you just remain mindful of them, they will dissolve back into the mind, just like a wave returns back to the ocean water. Just when you're not mindful, then they will continue on, and you are creating an endless chain of thoughts and afflictions. So whatever afflictive emotion or whatever thought arises, you have to practice with it. Milarepa said that focus on the ocean. So he meant that when waves come and disturb you, just focus on the ocean, because waves are nothing but the display of the ocean. And so likewise, thoughts and afflictions are the natural display of the mind. So just keep your attention on the mind itself, like keep your attention on the ocean itself. If you just keep your attention on the nature of the mind, then even when thoughts appear, and they will appear, they will not affect you in one or the other way.
Yeah, maybe no. Okay. That the 想这什么的人工看了起，这都是修准备的，是老总的去做准备。
We take a lunch break here and we meet back at 3.
Vacation.
I think okay. Okay.
Fun lunch. Everyone has been saying how wonderful the teachings are online. The translators have said how wonderful they are, and we really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
轻松啊。
松松。俺这次去做准备都吧。
Yeah, he understood, and see you at 3.